First, I would like to ask Kathy what has changed since the 3.5 years, or what keeps on changing since the 3.5 years that you have taken up this position, and what was, let's say, imagined that you would do or expected of you, and what does it mean to be an associate director?
Well, I'm very glad to be here. I had no idea so many of you would come, so now it makes me nervous. But what I do hope we can do is have a bit of a conversation as opposed to me sitting here talking to you. I guess I have to say I'm not really sure what my job is, and that's part of the deliciousness of it. It's sort of a portfolio that changes day by day. I was hired by Glenn Lowry, the director of MoMA, who I have come to know has an incredibly secure ego. I don't think necessarily a lot of people would put up with me and hire me, but he had gone through a huge campaign and a huge building project, and hired me shortly after the museum opened again. And I had gone through a big campaign and a big building project, but after doing that, I wasn't sure I really had the intellectual firepower to keep inventing at Walker. And when I started to say no more than I said yes, I realized it was time for me to go. And I think Glenn actually also had that in the back of his mind. He wanted somebody who would challenge him. He wanted an outsider-insider, which is a role I was, because at sort of that point in my career, I had really nothing to prove, but I wanted to be useful, so I didn't mind asking extremely stupid questions repeatedly. But I only ask actually the same question 3 times. And if I don't get the answer I want, I move on to the next one. That's sort of the rule I make with myself. The interesting thing about my role at MoMA was that it was very ambivalent. My approach to MoMA was very ambivalent. I grew up in that institution. I started going to it when I was 12. I was quite critical of the new building, and I really felt that MoMA's own remarkable history was a paralyzing rather than liberating part of its future. So I think that's why I have to mention Glenn as an incredibly secure person, because he actually wanted somebody by his side who didn't feel like the institution was the institution, but was an institution. What's changed is a little hard for me to see since I'm so close to it now. I think like I've begun to drink the Kool-Aid, which probably isn't so good. But when I first got there, I went around and spoke to a lot of the curators, and I asked them, what are you doing? And we would talk about that for a while. And then I would say to them, well, what do you really want to do? And they would say, well, I really want to do this, but it's not a MoMA show. And that, I began to realize, was my role, was to say, what does that mean? Why is that? And I went to Glenn about 5 months after I started, and I said, you know, there's an enormous amount of self-censorship in this institution. You might want that because that's one form of control. But if I open the window, the doors are going to open too. And I think actually for all cultural institutions that are dealing with artists who are alive and issues that are pressing, the hardest thing for us to do is actually not take ourselves too seriously. And to really be willing to take the kind of leaps that artists take with them. And I think that's in a way what I was also hired to do, which was to bring artists closer to the institution, to offer them opportunities that maybe they hadn't been offered, to sort of be a quarterback for them. It's, you know, 750 people work at MoMA. That's 150 less than when I came because of the recession. we had a very strict hiring freeze, and when people left, they weren't replaced. So it's a very big place. Walker was about 170. I knew almost everybody's name. So it's a huge difference to go into a very big institution with 3 unions, 7 departments, $119 million budget, and try to actually aerate the place and not let the bureaucracy smother us. So I also asked questions about how the administration works. I ask questions. I'm sort of a bifocal person, I guess. I work between administration and curatorial.